Hello, so creative, it's Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. In today's tutorial we are going to learn how to make the bubu gown itself. So this is a continuation of the video we just uploaded the previous day. The first video was about the inner part, which is the fitted gown, while this video is for the bubu gown itself. So if you will love to learn how I cut and put this bubu gown together, grab your seat and your popcorn and keep watching, and let's dive into our cutting and sewing table. So we are working with 2 yards of mikado, our scissors, our tape rule and everything. So I've gone ahead to fold the mikado into 4 places using my hip divide by 4 plus extra 6-inch is allowance for the bubu effect. So I've gone ahead to mark out my starting line. On that starting line, I'm going to impute our shoulder divide by 2 plus our cut together sleeve allowance. On that our sleeve allowance, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and I'm going to mark out our neck width of 4 inches, and I'm going to taper it that 1 inch all over to our neck width to get our shoulder slope. On that our shoulder slope, I'm going to come down by 12 inches for our sleeve opening. Remember, it's a bubu gown and it needs freeness. On the sleeve opening, I'm going to measure what I have on the starting line. I'm going to impute it directly on the sleeve opening to get our sleeve line like so. And after getting our sleeve line, I'm going to start marking out our body circumference, which I use my hip divide by 4 plus 6 inches is allowance. My hip is the fuller part of my body, so that is the reason why I'm making use of my hip. And after which I curve my sleeve length. So I'm going to mark out the length of our bubu gown. So the length of this bubu gown is like a 3/4 length, and I made use of 48 inches length. After marking out the length, I'm going ahead to go ahead and rule it out like so. I'm also going ahead to impute my hip divide by 4 plus 6 inch is allowance on the hem part of our gown, and I'm going to rule it straight up to meet the sleeve opening side. And on the neck, I came down by 1 inch for our neck depth, which is for the back. So when I'm done cutting, I'm going to separate the front from the back, and we now work on the V neck of the front. So this, after cutting, I went ahead to separate them, and we are going to start working on the V neck of the front. So for the V neck, I came down by 9 inches to mark out my V neck for the front, and I'm going to rule it with my straight ruler, and I go ahead and cut it out. So after cutting it, you remember that it has another v-neck with chantilles. So you are now, after cutting this first v-neck, you are going to determine how wide you want that chantilly v-neck to be. So I made mine 2.5. So I'm going to mark 2.5 into several places all around that v-neck in order to cut out the v-neck that I'm going to use to match with my chantilles. So after marking out this 2.5, I still went ahead to add extra 1/2 inch on the main fabric. So you will still need 1/2 inch to sew on your main fabric, so you don't cut out the direct 2.5. You mark out 1/2 inch, because the one we are cutting, we can replace it with another fabric, like we are going to recut it on another bigger fabric. So this one that I just cut out now, we are going to replace or recut it on our other bigger fabric, so that we can add the sewing allowances. So this is how it's going to look like when you resew it back with your chantilles. So we are going to go ahead and recut it on our bigger fabric, like I said, so that we can be able to add the sewing allowances by the side. Remember, we minus our 1/2 inch for our main bodies. We added 1/2 inch sewing allowance for our main bodies. That 1/2 inch is what we are going to use to sew back this V that we are just cutting at right now. And that is how it works. After cutting it, we are going to cut out the V that we are working with on our chantilles. And after cutting the exact thing on the chantilles, we are going to now place the chantilles on top the mikado like so. When you place it on top your mikado, you now go ahead and now sew it on your bubu. I'm going to now bring my bubu and show you how it's gonna look when you sew it back. So when you sew it back, this is how it's going to look. So I'm heading over to my sewing machine to go and sew it. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is the outcome. After sewing, you can go ahead and top stitch on top your mikado fabric, like on top the mikado fabric. You can go ahead and top stitch so that the v will relax so well. So I went ahead to cut out the excesses, and that is it. What we are going to do now is to cut out the facing we are going to use to turn the v-neck. So after folding it, I'm going to bring the pieces that was left from our bigger fabric, and we are going to place it on top and now trace it out like so. You first trace out the v-neck. After tracing out the v-neck, you will now determine how wide you want your facing to be. So when you remove your main fabric and start cutting the facing, after cutting the facing, we are going to resize it because it was looking big in my eye after I must have cut it. And I'm going to use this facing to turn the v-neck of our bubu gown. And for the back as well, we are also going to go ahead and cut out the facing like we did to the front. Place it on a pieces, trace out your facing, and now cut it like so. So I'm going to turn both the back and the front. I'm heading over to my sewing machine to turn it. You are going to sew on the right side first, after which you now turn the facing to the wrong side. I've gone ahead to turn the face. You can see how neat it's looking. So after turning your face, make sure you iron press everything so that it will relax very well. So we are going to start joining the shoulders together. I'm going to place the right side of both the front and the back together, and I sew on the shoulder by 1/2 inch. After sewing the shoulder, we are going to now turn the hem the sleeve. So this is how I hem the sleeve so that it will have a weight, a little bit of weight. I use a separate fabric to hem it. I did not hem it directly on our cutout fabric. So I use a very long stripe of extra fabric. I place it on top. I sew by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to flip that fabric into the right side. I'll be the wrong side like so, and I'm going to top stitch on top of that extra fabric by hemming the mat like so, and I'm going to top stitch on top of it. So I'm basically going to move over to my sewing machine and top stitch on top of it and come and show you the outcome. So I've gone ahead to top stitch on top of it, and this is how it's looking. You can see that it's looking so fine and neat. So you can go ahead now and iron press it. After top stitching the sleeve, you can now go ahead and close by the side by 1/2 inch. After closing by the side by 1/2 inch, I went ahead to also hem the down part of our beautiful bubu gown. I'm heading over to my sewing machine to go and sew it. So I've gone ahead to join the side. So what we are working now is on that rope, the tie rope that you're going to use to get that effect. You are going to now determine how you want it. So like from the shoulder, I came down by 23, and we are going to sew one rope on that 23 inches that I came down from. From the center, I came in by 4 inches, and I'm going to sew one rope there and also sew one rope inside your gown. So this is the rope that I've cut out. So I've used it to form our rope, and this is how you sew your rope. You sew one outside and one inside. So this one is going to be inside, while this one is going to be outside, and they are going to now jam this themselves. The inside one is going to drag the printing of the bubu gown. I have gone ahead to attach the two rope, both the outside one and the inner one, and that is how it's looking. So the inner one is the one that you're going to drag to come and meet the outer one, and this is, watch me closely and see how I'm doing it. So while dragging it, make sure that you print your bubu gown. After printing, you now join the two rope together and now form your rows using the rope. You can see me tying the rope so beautifully well, and that is it for this bubu gown. You can now go ahead and iron press it so very well so that it will be looking sumptuous. And that is it for this tutorial. If you have watched to this part, thanks for watching. And if you have watched to this part and you have not watched the chanty-less part, which is the inner fitted gown, you can go ahead and go over to my timeline and you will see the chantilly tutorial. And that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye, my lovers.